Mara's eyes flickered open to a dim haze of cold, sterile light. The ceiling above her was not her own, plain concrete, lined with faint cracks like the veins of an old leaf. She sat up sharply, breath catching, as a dull throb pulsed behind her right temple. The room was unfamiliar, almost surgically clean, with a single window that showed only the opaque gray of early morning fog. Her wrist ached. Instinctively, she turned her arm over, and that's when she saw it. Etched beneath the skin like an embedded LED strip, a glowing countdown ticked in silent precision. Lease. 6D 12 hours 27 minutes. Her breath hitched. The numbers were too specific to be arbitrary. She stood slowly, scanning the room. The layout was Spartan. Bed, sink, mirror, a sleek white box mounted into the wall pulsing with the same hue as her timer. A single door, heavy and metallic, stood without a handle. There was no clock, no phone, no means to reach anyone outside. Her heart thudded. Was this a hospital? Prison? Had she been drugged? Then came the memory. Half-formed, slippery. Bar. Conversation. A woman with luminous eyes offering her something. Do you ever wish you could start over? Really start over? The woman had asked, sliding a black card across the table. Mara had taken it. That's all she remembered. The box on the wall beeped. A panel slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a slim tablet. On it was a video paused at the 0-second mark, titled, "Welcome, Mara." Her finger hovered over the screen before she tapped it. A high-definition version of herself appeared, smiling, eyes bright with a confidence she no longer recognized. If you're watching this, you made the choice. You agreed to the terms. 6 days. Clean slate. No past, no debt, no memory. Unless it returns naturally. You're safe. But remember, time is a rental. Use it wisely. There are no extensions. The screen faded to black. Mara stared at the tablet, every muscle tensed. No memory. Voluntary. That couldn't be. She would never sign something like that. But the video had been unmistakable. Her voice, her face, her choice. The timer on her wrist had ticked down to 6D 12 hours 24 minutes. The door hissed and clicked. It opened silently into a narrow hallway lit by rows of ceiling lights that buzzed softly. She stepped out, the air cool and vaguely antiseptic. The hallway extended both ways, ending in walls of matte black glass. As she passed another door, it opened briefly. A man stepped out, glancing at her with the same cautious curiosity. A glowing timer on his wrist read 4D 3 hours 11 minutes. He said nothing. Further down, Mara saw a common area. Sparse but warmer. Books on a low shelf. A faux fireplace projection flickering gently. A woman sat in an armchair, timer blinking at 0D 9 hours 54 minutes. She looked up at Mara with haunted eyes. "First day?" she asked. Mara nodded. "Don't try to remember too hard. Comes back when it wants. Or it doesn't. The place doesn't let you leave. What happens when the timer runs out?" The woman gave a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "No one really knows. Some vanish. Some collapse. One guy turned into light." Mara sat across from her. Why would anyone sign up for this? Maybe because living without memory is better than remembering certain things. The woman stood, brushing non-existent lint from her jeans. "My name's Alira. Don't trust anyone whose timer is below 1 day. They get desperate. Sometimes violent." As Alira left, Mara turned her eyes to the fire. Was it possible she'd done something so awful she wanted to forget it completely? Would 6 days be enough to atone, or escape? Hours passed. She wandered the complex, discovering more timers, more faces, all equally hollowed. She noticed cameras, small ones seamless with the ceiling, and a soft ambient chime that rang every hour. She saw no staff, no guards, just residents or inmates. In the dining room, she found a boy of maybe 16, timer reading 2D 22 hours 9 minutes, staring at a tray of untouched food. "You okay?" He didn't look up. "They said I chose this. But I was just trying to escape a foster home." I didn't know what I was signing. Mara sat beside him. What do you think happens when time runs out? He turned to her, eyes tired. I think it resets. Or maybe we get judged. Or maybe they just recycle the bodies. The chill in his voice settled deep in her spine. That night, her dreams were broken fragments. Hospitals, blood, an explosion of glass, a scream she couldn't place. She woke gasping, heart racing. The countdown now read 66 hours 12 minutes. In the mirror, she noticed faint scarring on her chest. Surgical, precise. She ran her fingers over it, trying to summon a memory, but none came. Back in her room, the tablet chimed again. A new message had arrived. Text only. Meet me in the library at 1400 hours. Come alone. D. She found the library nestled in the west wing. Dim and musty, but filled with real books. At exactly 1400 hours, a tall man with graying hair and a wary gaze approached. You're Mara. She nodded. Who are you? Name's Darius. We worked together. You recruited people for TRA. You were one of the best. He froze. Tra. You mean the time rental agency? That's real. He scoffed. Very. You weren't just involved, Mara. You were a star. You got people to give up years of their lives. Voluntarily. Why would I? 'Cause they paid you. You sold time. Then why am I here? He leaned closer. You disappeared. Word was you had a breakdown. Started having regrets. You checked yourself into a lease cycle anonymously. Maybe out of guilt. Maybe to vanish. Maybe. You were trying to destroy it from the inside. Her stomach churned. I don't remember any of that. You're not supposed to. The system wipes memory unless you request it back. But pieces leak through. He handed her a flash drive. This has footage. Of you. Files. Watch it when you're ready. She took it, pulse racing. Why are you helping me? He hesitated. Because I think you were trying to fix something. And I believe in second chances. Even if they're rented. That night, she plugged the drive into the tablet. The files were encrypted. She attempted to open one, and the screen flashed white. A video began to play. Herself again, this time in a sterile office. Her voice was colder. Target acquired. Female 19, history of trauma, easy to persuade. Lease arranged for 3 years. Payment processed. Another video. Herself, laughing as a man signed a document. Timer blinking into existence on his wrist. Clip after clip. Smiling. Selling. Promising freedom. She recoiled, bile rising. The final clip was different. Her face bruised, tear-streaked. This system is a cage. I'm going inside. I need to forget who I was. If I remember, it's because it's time to make it right. She shut the tablet. The timer on her wrist read 60 hours 3 minutes. Darius didn't come back the next day. Mara waited, glancing around corners, searching corridors, pretending to read in the library where they last spoke. Her wrist ticked down with cruel rhythm. 5D 23 hours 17 minutes. The absence gnawed at her. He had the answers. Or at least, he had threads that could unravel this strange tapestry. A new message arrived on her tablet at dawn. Keep the drive hidden. Trust no one. They're watching. No signature. No return option. The warning sent a prickle along her spine. She hid the drive beneath the mattress, deep in the fabric fold near the frame, then scanned the ceiling corners. Camera sat like an indifferent sentinel. Mara found herself in the atrium that morning, where a thick pane of false glass showed a simulated sunrise. There, Elira was seated cross-legged on the floor, eyes closed, humming softly to herself. Her timer blinked. 0D 4 hours 3 minutes. Elira, Mara said, hesitating. What happens when it hits 0? Elira opened her eyes slowly, then smiled with something closer to resignation than joy. They say you see your real self. Or nothing at all. What does that mean? You'll know. Or you won't. She laughed, a brittle sound. That's the trick, isn't it? Time runs out before answers do. Her words clung to Mara like static as the hours pressed forward. She returned to the library, searching not for books but memories. One title kept drawing her back: Time as Commodity, a Posthuman Theory. When she opened it, a yellowed slip of paper fell out. It was handwritten. The real prison isn't the walls. It's the contract. Tear that, and time itself bleeds. It was signed with a letter K. Another ghost. Another rebel. Mara folded the paper into her sleeve. Later that day, during the designated meal hour, the dining room was quieter than usual. The boy from before, the one who had been in the foster system, sat at the far end, pale and twitchy. His name tag now read Silas, though he'd never spoken it aloud. His timer blinked urgently. 0D 1 hour 18 minutes. Silas was shaking. She approached slowly. "You okay?" "I can feel it," he whispered. "Something's wrong. I keep dreaming of a man with no face. He's waiting at the end of my time. Have you told anyone?" He looked at her, pupils like pinholes. "They don't care. They just say it's lease anxiety. They feed us stories to keep us calm. But I think it's worse than we think." Mara leaned in. "What if the lease is a loop? What if you've been here before?" His breath hitched. "I tried cutting the timer once. Burned it. But the numbers just grew brighter." That night Silas vanished. One moment he was at dinner, nibbling on a roll. The next his seat was empty. No fanfare. No light. Just gone. Mara felt something crack in her. Not fear, determination. There was a mechanism here, and it had gears she could hear ticking. She needed Darius. She waited by the library every hour the next day. Still no sign. Instead she met someone new. A woman with auburn hair and sharp eyes, wearing a timer reading 2D 17 hours 9 minutes, approached Mara near the central fountain. "You're the one who met Darius." Mara stiffened. "Who's asking?" "The one who followed the files he left behind." She extended a hand. "Kira. I was in recruitment. Like you. Only I got out before the burnout. Before the guilt." Mara didn't shake her hand. "Then why are you here?" "Because you stirred something. Darius had allies. We think you're the key to ending this place." "I don't even remember myself." "Doesn't matter," Kira said. "Your instincts remember. They built this place to sell borrowed time. To let people reset their lives. But it feeds off them. They vanish because their time is consumed, literally. You saw the videos. You know what you were a part of. How do I stop it?" Kira's jaw tightened. "There's a core room. A control system buried in sublevel 3. You need an identity token and a memory marker to access it." Mara frowned. "Where do I find those?" Kira's eyes darkened. "One's in you. Surgically implanted. The other Darius was carrying." Mara's fingers found the scar on her chest. That night, she broke into Darius's quarters. The door was surprisingly easy to override with the tablet. Inside, the room was stripped nearly bare, save for a single painting on the wall, a cascade of red over gray, a human shape dissolving into pixels. Behind it she found a safe. A timer blinked above the lockpad. "Enter biomatch, Mara C." She placed her palm on the scanner. Click. Inside, a memory drive, black and smooth, and a folded note. "If you're here, I'm likely gone. Sorry. I tried to stall them. The system is watching. Don't delay. Find the heart. Break the loop." Kira knows the rest. As she closed the safe, a shrill alarm pierced the silence. Lights turned red. Her wrist read. 4D 22 hours 1 minute. A voice echoed across the halls. "Security breach detected. Initiating containment." Doors slammed. Shadows moved. Mara sprinted. The sirens didn't wail. They pulsed, a deep, rhythmic boom that vibrated through the floor like a heartbeat. Mara sprinted down the narrow hallway, slipping past a closing bulkhead just as it slammed shut behind her. She didn't stop to breathe. The tablet she gripped showed a crude, hand-drawn map, Darius's last message had included a rudimentary layout of Sublevel 3. The core was buried beneath layers of misleading architecture. A false elevator shaft, a corridor behind the archives, and then a sealed door. That was the path. And they were already onto her. Footsteps echoed from above. Two voices barked commands. She ducked into a janitorial passageway and crouched between a crate of synthetic bleach and a stack of mops. Her wrist ticked down. 4D 21 hours 48 minutes. She barely noticed anymore. Time wasn't the enemy now. The system was. When the guards passed, she slid out silently, retracing the route toward the archives. As she entered the dimly lit room, rows of records glowed under soft blue light. Nothing digital here, deliberate no doubt so nothing could be remotely deleted. It reeked of age and dust, though everything was pristine. Kira's voice crackled in Mara's earpiece. "You in? I made it to the archives. Going for the corridor. 2 minutes before they reroute the containment team. Move fast." The corridor was behind a false wall, concealed between shelves. Mara ran her palm along the edge until it clicked and opened a narrow slit just wide enough for her to slip through. Inside, the air changed. It felt damp, electric. She descended. Metal stairs led downward in a tight spiral. Every step pulsed with energy. The lights here flickered, and something distant hummed. At the bottom, the walls turned black, not from darkness, but from the strange material that absorbed every trace of light. Then the door. It loomed ahead, smooth and seamless. No handles, no code panel, only a glowing orb at eye level. She stepped closer. The orb blinked red. "Identity token required," a voice droned. Mara placed her palm over her chest, over the scar. She closed her eyes, focused. Authorization confirmed. "Welcome, Mara Caden." The door hissed open. Beyond it, the core room. It wasn't what she expected. No grand machine, no swirling cables. Just a chamber. Circular. Empty, except for a raised platform at the center, and a console beside it. The walls shimmered with projections. Dozens of faces blinking in and out of existence, each tagged with a timer. Some were frozen. Others counted backward. She stepped onto the platform. The console flickered to life. Insert memory marker. Mara slid the drive Darius left into the port. Instantly the room changed. Now she was surrounded by looping memories, her own. She saw herself in a corporate suit, seated in an office overlooking a glimmering skyline. A younger Mara, offering contracts to desperate people. Promises of borrowed time. Empty guarantees. Then the accident. The rebellion. Her defection. And then the erasure. It all came back in seconds. Waves of guilt, anger and clarity. She had built the very prison she was now trapped in. The lease program was her design. But it had been corrupted, repurposed. A corporation took over, turned it into a farm. Time harvesting engine. "Mara," Kira's voice crackled again. "They're locking down Sublevel 3. You have 10 minutes max. How do I stop this?" On the console there's a failsafe. Full core purge. But if you trigger it, your time ends instantly. Course it did. Mara looked at the countdown. 4D 21 hours 31 minutes. Enough time to live. But not enough to forgive herself. She studied the faces on the wall. Some she remembered. Victims, volunteers, liars, lovers. All of them drawn into a promise she once believed in. "Mara," Kira urged. "I need to know what happens when time ends." "Mara." She pulled up the override. A single button blinked red. Initiate core purge. But she hesitated. Then the door behind her opened. Darius, wounded, bleeding from his side, clutching the frame. "Don't do it yet." She ran to him. "You're alive." "Barely. They caught me, wiped part of my mind. But I remembered the core. I remembered you." He handed her a data shard. This has the proof. Everything. The broadcast. The leaks. If we release it, people outside will know. No more silence. Will that stop the machine? No. But it'll bring eyes. And maybe that's what we need. Not to destroy it, but to expose it. She looked from the shard to the purge button. Two choices. Burn it down. Or shine a light. Mara stepped back to the console. She inserted the shard. A new option appeared. Transmit sequence initiate. Confirm external broadcast. Do it, Darius whispered. She hit confirm. The console pulsed. The walls lit up. The faces shimmered and then disappeared. Mara, Kira's voice said. Signals going out. We're live. Darius sank to the floor. Mara sat beside him. You did it, he said. Not yet, she murmured. They'll come now. We have to be ready. Above them alarms fell silent. A new tone filled the air. A deep resonant chime. A countdown no longer counting down. The sky above Sector 9 shimmered like broken glass. Drones zipped silently between fractured cloud banks, scanning for anything that moved out of sequence. The signal Mara had broadcast wasn't just received. It detonated across the networks like a thunderclap. Everything changed. Kira stood on the rooftop of a ruined metro terminal. Her hair whipping around her face, eyes locked on the jagged skyline where billboards blinked erratically. Words that hadn't been spoken publicly in over a decade now danced across them. Time is a rental. Truth is a debt. Wake up. They got it, she whispered, then tapped her comm. Heard from Mara? Static. The system was retaliating. Cities were shifting into blackout zones. Officials disappeared. Enforcers stormed known resistance outposts. Still, the truth had escaped, and like all contagious things, it was impossible to unspread. Darius was still unconscious. He lay beneath the core facility, deep in the understructure where Mara had hidden him before slipping away. The wound was bad, but what he carried in his mind was more valuable than anything they could upload. And it was beginning to come back. Mara had left alone, knowing what the light would summon. She walked now through the quiet lanes of District 11. It was always eerily clean here. Artificial trees rustled with perfectly timed breezes. The sky was always a carefully painted dawn. It made her stomach turn. Her wrist read. 4D 15 hours 3 minutes. Always there, always watching. She entered the memory bank. The lobby was hollowed, empty. This was one of the oldest buildings still linked to the lease. It stored the original contracts, back when people still needed to sign in ink. She found the vault. An attendant drone hovered to life, chirping like a bird. Hello, Caden. You are not expected. I'm not here to be expected. I'm here to extract. Unauthorized extraction is prohibited. She raised her EMP wand and fried the drone mid-sentence. The vault door opened with a grunt. Inside the contracts, rows and rows of them, physical copies stored in alloy crates. She scanned until she found her own. Lease agreement, Caden. Contract duration. 55 years borrowed. Balance remaining. 4 days, 15 hours. She stared at it. The paper felt warm in her hands. Her own name. Her own mistake. She pocketed the document and lit the crate on fire. One down. More steps followed. She transmitted the location of every contract storage unit to Kira, who relayed it to cells across the city. Fires bloomed within hours. Not all vaults were breached, but enough to make a dent. The system tried to reassert itself. Public news feeds began labeling Mara and Darius as saboteurs, terrorists, enemies of public order. But it was too late for narrative control. The streets buzzed with protest. People stopped paying. Their wrists turned red. Default. 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 Time collapsed in the most literal sense. When a borrower defaulted, they were seized. Time was extracted remotely if needed. But the machines couldn't keep up. Too many defaults at once overloaded the channels. So the system paused. Frozen in hesitation. Kira and her team breached the northern data relay. Darius, weak but awake, coordinated the release of the deeper archives. Hidden records of the experiments, the failures, the original subjects. That's when everything broke. The world watched. Old journalists dusted off suppressed files. Whistleblowers emerged like ghosts. Lawsuits were filed en masse. The corporation, so massive it had once claimed to own time itself, began to shrink. But power doesn't die quietly. They sent a retrieval unit for Mara. She was in the old metro tunnels when they came. 3 silent enforcers in sleek black armor. No warning, just pursuit. Ran. Not because she feared death, her time was short and she knew it, but because she still had something left to do. In the central terminal, beneath the ruins, was the original chronochamber. The first prototype. Unstable. Dangerous. But also capable of resetting. Resetting what no one knew. Mara reached it just as her timer dipped below 4 days. Her hands trembled as she entered the override code. The panel blinked red. Unstable temporal field. Risk. Absolute. The chamber thrummed to life. Blue light surged through its ribs. The guards were close. She could hear their boots striking metal. Mara stepped inside. Not to escape. Not to run. But to send something back. She uploaded the final file. Message. Not for the resistance. Not for the corporation. For herself. Time loop imperfect, flawed, but still a chance. Seed. If she could reach the moment before she signed the lease. Maybe, just maybe, she could undo it all. The chamber exploded with light. The guards burst in too late. There was no body. Only scorch marks. Only silence. Kira saw it happen on her screen. Mara, she whispered. You didn't just break the lease. You broke the clock.